What's good? It's your boy Fannon. Welcome back to the channel, subscribers. Going to talk about Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. They both had some videos, some interviews they did this weekend where they talked about fighting each other. And it seems like the tone between these guys keep bouncing back and forth. And Terence Crawford actually made a pretty good argument for why he wasn't interested in the fight. Or let me rephrase this. Terence Crawford said that he could dead that fight over money issues. So we'll talk about that. Also talk about what Errol Spence Jr. said in his interview with Linda Yee, talking about specifically about Terence Crawford and what's coming up next for him. Before I do that, though, I want to welcome you back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we release more videos. And definitely check out the Patreon. Haven't uploaded a Patreon in a few days. Been terribly busy, man, but we're going to get a bunch of them out in a row. So the Patrons, you guys are going to get some really good content coming up very, very soon. Now, as we all know, one of the biggest fights in boxing are potential fights in boxing are Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. It's one of these fights that a lot of people are very, very interested in seeing. And I personally think is, man, one of the best welterweight fights that have happened in a long time. And I think it would be a better fight than even Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao, because those guys were a little bit further along in their career when those matchups happened. Somebody can correct me, but I'm thinking this might be around the lines of a Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad type of fight. Two undefeated welterweight champions coming together for a unification fight. Man, that was the lead up to that fight was an excellent fight. It wound up, the fight wasn't as good, but as I think this Terence Crawford Errol Spence Jr. fight will be, but that's the type of fight that this is. Now, Ellie Sethpak was asking Terence Crawford about, by the way, I want to take a second, man, because before you guys think and accuse me of being a Terence Crawford hater, let me move that back up a little bit. You know, I got that new camera I'm playing around with, so you guys have to wait a little while till I get the sound and all this type stuff ready. But we doing one take today, so I had to adjust the focus for a second. But Errol Spence Jr. or Terence Crawford was being interviewed by Ellie Sethpak. Ellie Sethpak asked him a series of questions. The ones that were most important to me are obviously the Errol Spence Jr. questions, and Ellie Sethpak asked him, is Terence Crawford going to fight Errol Spence? And he said no. And he asked why. He said because Terence Crawford said because, they're playing all this A-side, stuff. And look, nobody controls me. Bob Arum doesn't control me. Errol Spence, Al Heyman doesn't control me. And if I don't want that fight, I'll just dead the fight. And my thought was, yeah, you could do that. That is pretty much the ultimate leverage. One interview that took place in a Boxing Voice last week with obviously a very good, very experienced negotiator in boxing was Shelly Finkel. And Shelly Finkel was responding to a question that implied that Deontay Wilder had the leverage over Anthony Joshua. And Shelly Finkel said, man, no, you don't have any leverage if the other person says no. If you walk away and say you don't want the fight, then there is no leverage there. And I mean, you don't get any more straightforward. Don't get any more straightforward than that. That's accurate. So really, Terence Crawford could say he doesn't want the fight. Now, this is my take on that whole. You can look at that whole percentage thing and who gets paid what a couple different ways. The most obvious is, what have you done for me lately? What have you done? What is your prior financial performance or your prior performances being a predictor of what the future will be, right? And fighters are paid based off their last performances or the public perception of them in their last performances. On the financial side of it, it's very, very hard to argue that I have argued that Errol Spence Jr. is the big upside in that fight based on financial performance. It's just what it is. One guy, Errol Spence Jr., has done pay-per-views close to 400,000, whatever it wound up being, 360, 380. You hear these different numbers, and I don't know if anybody's actually came out with the numbers. Then you have, on the high end of Terence Crawford's pay-per-view with Amir Khan was 150,000. So, and then you look at the number of tickets sale. The money is just on the side of Errol Spence Jr. And that's just what it is. And if Terence Crawford really wants to make that fight, then, that's something I think that he needs to realize. Now, the reason why I say what Terence Crawford said about him just dead in the fight, why I say that's true, is because he would then have to test his willingness to walk away and not make that fight with Errol Spence's desire to make the fight. Now, I don't think that would necessarily pay off right away because Errol Spence has another fight. Obviously, this fight coming up with Sean Porter. And that fight is, that's a real fight, man. That fight is just as valid as the fight with Terence Crawford. So that gets done. Then if Errol Spence Jr. wants to fight for another belt, he's got to pick a two people he can negotiate with. One is Keith Thurman, or if Keith Thurman loses to Manny Pacquiao in the fight that's supposed to take place between them, Manny Pacquiao. I don't know how willing Manny Pacquiao is to be to fight him, but and Terence Crawford. Or he could fight a mandatory, or he could just put the pressure on Terence Crawford to make the fight by stalling. But thank goodness that Errol Spence Jr. is saying, no, man, he's already told his team that after the Sean Porter fight that they want to get into negotiations with Terence Crawford right away. And he said, hey, man, 60-40, if it's 60-40, that sounds about right to him, but he wants to make the fight. And he was asked where the fight would have to be. Errol Spence said he didn't care where the fight was going to be. So, hey, man, if Errol Spence Jr. if he's willing to give 60-40 to Terence Crawford, hey, man, that sounds like a big deal, a good deal. By the way, though, before any of you guys think I'm hating on Terence Crawford, I do want to draw your picture to, draw the camera to my Terence Bud Crawford T-shirt that I have on today. I ordered a couple of weeks ago, and they just came in today. I got this, and I got one of his logos. Unfortunately, Team Bud, your 3XL does not fit like a 3XL. It fits more like a 1XL. So, maybe it's because I don't know who tried out your shirts, but you guys need to change those. You need to change those size labels. But other than that, man, material feels good. I'm really happy I got the T-shirt. More than likely, I'm going to have to give it to my son and he can grow into it. Or I might show up to a fight and see if I can get Bud to autograph it or something and put it up in a picture frame or something. But anyway, I just said that because you guys get on me so hard and claim that I'm a Bud hater when I'm really not. Now, what I value the fight in fights are the quality of the fight for me, right? I'm not, and this is something Blood Boxing says, other people will say on their channels, that, sometimes we get to count, as fans, we get to counting other people, counting that money too much. I can't help it, man. That's the thing that I find very interesting while I'm waiting for these big fights to happen, is to talk about these type of things. But definitely, I think in the equation somewhere for Bud in this whole split thing needs to be that, one, he has a belt, but number two, he's a top pound for pound fighter in the world. I have him my 1A, Canelo 1B, but he's one of the top guys, in all of boxing. And the simple fact that it's him and Errol Spence Jr. gets a chance to beat him and elevate himself in a fight that's this big should garner enough respect for Terence Crawford to make that percentage split get closer than it would be if you just looked at, if all you did was look at the money that was earned in previous fights. And it's a hell of a fight, man. It'd be a gift to the boxing fans, man. We are right now, as far as the big fights in boxing, man, it seems like they're getting very, very hard to make. Not the good fights. There are plenty of good fights that are getting made. Julian Williams versus Jared Hurd this weekend, that's a good fight. I thought this fight with Canelo Alvarez and Daniel Jacobs was a good fight. I think Canelo Alvarez versus Demetrius Andre would be a really, really good fight. Errol Spence Jr. versus Sean Porter, that's a very, very good fight. So could be fights with Errol Spence Jr. and Ugas if he wanted to fight Ugas, or if some other 140 pounders like Josh Taylor or Regis Prograis wanted to move up, man, those would be great fights. So, I mean, very good fights. But the big fights, it seems like they're with where there's all the money in it and all that. Those are being tough to make, and that's why I would hope that Errol Spence and Terence Crawford could come together and make that fight. Terence Crawford seemed a little bit agitated, man. Like, he seemed agitated by the situation, saying that, but I think Elliot Sethbeck asked about, who would beat a chest, who would win a chest, and Terence Crawford said, man, I don't play games with people I'm trying to fight. Just seemed real focused, real irritated. And, with good reason, man. I mean, it's not his fault that his fight. I don't believe it's his fault that his pay-per-views didn't do the numbers that I would have liked to see him do. But that's on Top Rank and Top Rank's choice not to promote him. It's just, and I don't think it's strictly to do with Terence Crawford not wanting to speak to the media. Because shoot, he gives a chunk of his money out to those guys to do it. And if they really wanted to focus and really wanted to promote him, Top Rank could do that. But anyway, it is what it is, man. And we'll see what's happening. And man, definitely hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.